When you have cancer actively, there is no path to self-mastery because every single day is just a curveball. You have to ask yourself, what do you want? Because so many of us end up acting in the shadow of what other people want or what other people expect of us. And that just takes us farther and farther and farther away from who we actually are.
Hello, and welcome to the Mindset and Self-Mastery Show. I'm your host, Nick McGowan. Today on the show, we have Edward Miskie. Edward, how are you doing today?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm good. I know we've had just a little bit of technical issues getting things started, but here we are. I'm excited to talk to somebody who's from the Northeast. I know when I was describing how the show would be, I was like, here's kind of a Northeast can of how it's going to be. But we're going to talk about a pretty fucking heavy topic that sadly a lot of people either experience or know somebody that is going through it or has gone through it. And I fucking hate cancer, and I know you do as well. So, man, I'm glad that you're here. Why don't you get us started? Tell us what you do for a living and what's one thing most people don't know about you that's maybe a little odd or bizarre.
Sure. Okay. So I pay my bills working in corporate America. But outside of that, I'm a writer and I consider myself to be a producer in either live or TV film world. It's been a long journey. I used to do musical theater and some TV and film. And here we are. Here we have landed in this kind of iteration of that life. Thing about me that is kind of weird, bizarre. I actually this might be a little bit mild for you, but I consider myself more recently than not to be an introvert. And I always thought that I was an extrovert, but that was actually just because I was drinking enough to become an extrovert to kind of settle the introverted want to go home. And I felt kind of obligated to fight that and stay out and be around people and do all the social things. And there is a point to which I really did like that. But it just turned me into an alcoholic. And so I stopped drinking and embraced the fact that I'm more of an introvert than anything.
I don't think that's mild. And actually, man, that's spot on with my own life. I think there are a lot of us that think, well, we have to do this sort of thing. Like we have to go out. Like people work in a corporate office, let's say. Every Thursday night, everybody goes out to this one specific bar for happy hour and they all talk about the one person who's an idiot in their job or whatever else. And they all just do those things. And there are people that are like, well, I want to be part of that crowd, so I'm going to do that. I think that shit even ties back to when we were kids. Like there are certain people that didn't experience drinking in high school. Others that were like, everybody fucking come with me. I got it. We're going to the woods. You know?
Oh, yeah. Little column A, little column B. But yeah, it is especially having, like I said, working in theater for so long, being in New York City, it's very hard to be introverted in New York City. I remember reading something recently that was like, I'm actually an extroverted introvert in the sense that I am pretty comfortable in a social setting. I am very comfortable doing stuff like this. But if you throw me in a social setting where I don't know anyone, I immediately clam up and disappear. That's what the alcohol was for.
Yeah. Lube you up.
And then COVID hit and that just spiraled out of control. And here we are. So, that I think that is probably the weird thing about me that people might not guess if they know me.
Well, how long have you been sober now?
It'll be 2 years end of March. So year and a half.
Okay, cool. Nice. That's not a thing that most people kind of just bring up, unless you're I don't know, being grossly boisterous about it. Like, hey, I stopped drinking a year and a half ago. The fuck, we're not even talking about that. Yeah,
right. It's vegans. I'm vegan.
Or CrossFitters. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's, I think I said to you offline, I literally wrote a book about my life that does not put me in a good light. And so I just have a very low threshold for things that I'm sensitive about talking about. So being a full raging alcoholic, that's nothing.
Sure. Yeah. That was the fun times.
Right. Miss those days.
Yeah. It's funny. I'm sure there are more people than not that listen to this that have at some point thought, maybe I have a little bit of a problem. And maybe that was the end of it. I realized at one point, I'm drinking a lot. and this isn't helping me. It's actually stopping me from doing things. Like I remember one time telling myself, going to go to the gym today. It's like, no, you're not. It's 11 o'clock and you've already had 2 drinks. I was like, I'm not going to the gym today. And the next day being like, oh, that sucks, man. That's gross. And I hate it or whatever. And I was like, I don't even want to go outside because I'm making these choices to do this. So, but if you get to that door, you can then make a choice through that. Like we'd even said kind of offline, like you had to get to a door to be able to be where you're at today with all this. But let's break down the alcoholism in a sense. Going out and being around with people, being in the industry, being in the conversations, all that sort of stuff can be weird for people if they don't have a drink. And going out after the fact when you're no longer drinking, it's like, do you just, oh, I'll just stand here with this thing.
Yeah, it's like that part I'm fine with. Like up into a certain point. Like when people start getting shitty, then that's my cue to leave. That's usually the barometer I go by. I'm not like triggered being in a bar. I'm like cool to be around it. It's not a big deal. I just don't like it. Just makes me feel gross and I just don't want to do it. It's when I'm around people who are getting a little unruly on the drunk scale that I'm kind of like, okay, well, that's my cue to go because we're no longer on the same plane.
Yeah. The Irish exit your way on out.
Yeah, just like, good night, guys. Bye.
See ya. I'm glad that you say that. There are certain people that they're hesitant to stop drinking or stop doing whatever that thing is that they do because that's kind of how they hang out with those friends. That's how they hang out with their family.
Yeah, I mean that's part of the reason why I drank a lot, because that was my social circle, and it was just kind of like, oh well, if I stop drinking, like they're not going to ask me to come out with them anymore, and like low key, that's what happened in the long run. But like, you know, it was a huge buildup. You know, I started really kind of drinking pretty heavily in like, I don't know, 2010. I drank my way through chemo. I drank my way through my 20s and my early 30s. And then I just hit a point where I was like, want to see if I can go a certain period of time without it. And like, it was during COVID, I had actually built up my tolerance like an actual fucking champion and blew through a bottle of Jameson within like 4 or 5 hours. And I wasn't drunk and I wasn't hungover the next day. And that was kind of like the whole,
that's a sign.
Okay, yeah. Maybe I should stop now. And then like my doctor was like, your liver numbers are out of control. What are you doing? Okay. So we had to do a quick course correct, but I'd never actually went fully sober because of that, because I was like afraid of the social component of it going away. So I would do like 100 days here, 100 days there. 200 days was, I think 210 days was as long as I had ever gone. And then this spring 2024, I just was like, I'm going to do a year. That's the longest I would have gone ever. So let me try that and let me go for a year. And then a year hit and I was like, oh, like I should like ceremoniously break this and then I'll never be more sober for more than a year. And like, I'll just go out and have one drink and it'll be totally fine. And the day came and went and I was like, I don't want to. I'm good. So here we are a year and a half later and I'm still on the sober train.
So whether it's 1 or 6 drinks, I mean, the people that are out there kind of thinking like, I know I have probably a little too many, but I don't really think that there's much of a problem. I think there's stuff where we have to think about, like you said about your liver, like your liver enzymes are probably crazy that you don't know that you potentially have fatty liver that you have to deal with now. And there are different things that could come up. Like, I don't know. I don't want to sound like somebody that's like, you shouldn't drink and finger wag and all that. But it's like, in some ways, the older we get, the more that we can look at the shit that we did when our 20s and 30s and go, my God, what's going on inside my body right now? Like, you kind of just blew straight past it that you drank through chemo. So time out, back to the chemo. Give us context here.
I had cancer. It was a very rare non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. There were only about like 900 or so cases of it reported worldwide at the time. It's called rare and large B-cell Burkitt's, like non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. It's very aggressive. You could watch my tumor grow. It was the grossest thing in the world. It was a very dire emergency situation. And I think maybe like 2 or 3 rounds of chemo in, and I just asked, it was round 2. And I asked my oncologist if I could have a drink, and she was like, yeah, just 1 or 2, but don't go crazy. And then I promptly left the hospital and went to my friend's bar and went crazy and had like doubles the whole night. Like it was, and like she knew that I had was going through it, and she was trying to help and be like, free alcohol, take it, whatever. And then just, that kind of like opened the floodgates of like, oh, you can drink during chemo. That's fine. And I did.
I mean, for anybody that drinks even slightly, they're probably going to listen and be like, of course you're going to drink. I would drink.
Well, right. Well, and my justification of it was like, well, liver wise, like, it's not chemo. This is like water at this point. So like, we're good.
The things will justify, like, oh, well, other poison or this poison I've been used to for a while.
Actual poison or curated poison?
Why do I use one as a back, like a piggyback?
Yeah, the liver's like, oh, well, that's not methotrexate. So cool.
Thank you. It's a dessert. Yeah. Oh, man.
A little amuse-bouche.
Because you're piling alcohols in.
Yeah. Like what a respite from chemo was bourbon.
Jeez. I mean, that makes sense. Part of the reason why I have the show is to talk about those super dark times, like the times where you're sitting there. Like I'm sure I'm not you, obviously, so I can't think and remember this, but I can almost picture you sitting there with a glass in your hand, couple fingers of scotch or whatever it is, thinking like, this is where I'm at right now. And like, what a fucking time to think about all that stuff and still put that shit in your body. Cause in some ways, I'm sure you're like, I just want to feel a little happy, a little something.
It wasn't even so much a question of feeling happy because like I was 25 when I was diagnosed, right? So like I was still a young person, relatively speaking. I mean, I was a young person. I'm almost 40 now. So like, whatever. It wasn't so much about like having that introspective moment of like, oh, I guess this is my life now. It was more like, fuck this. I'm going out and having fun. This shit isn't going to stop me. And I'm going to drink my way through this. And it very quickly became a coping mechanism along with a number of other things. And it's a big narrative that I carry through where it's just like the coping mechanisms of having cancer. And then again, the coping mechanisms of surviving it. Alcohol was certainly one of them. I had tried like pot for the first time during this period of time. And that was like retail available. So like you were just hoping for whatever the dosage was. And I didn't know shit about dosage. So like the friends that I had at the time, like baked brownies. And like back then you just like threw a little nug and some butter and hope for the best. And they were bombs. Like, and they were going off, especially if you were mixing. But, it was like those two things, and like indiscriminate sex with strangers because I just wanted to feel like hot and normal, even though I was like bloated and bald from chemo. So it was one of the many coping mechanisms that I developed during that period of time.
So I don't want people to ever go through anything like this, ever. I mean, it sucks that we people go through really, really tough and difficult times, but I mean, it also shapes us. Like going through these really trying and like devastating times, you get through it, you are ultimately changed no matter what. Like I have not been through cancer personally, but I've had lots of family and different friends and people that I've known that have had it. And it almost seems like it's like one in like every other person at this point. But then again, like all the stuff that we go through, be it cancer, be it some drastic change, be it some career you've had for 15, 20 years, and you go, what the fuck am I doing? I didn't want to be here 25 years ago. Whatever those changes are, that shit can stop us from making additional changes. You were kind of forced in a sense with cancer. Like you had to deal with it. You couldn't not.
Right. There was no option. Yeah. I was told I wouldn't live past 30 if I didn't do anything.
But as a 25-year-old, you're right. I mean, you're a kid at that point. Like I remember being 25, like I know every fucking thing in the planet. Now you look back and
my God, I was a dumbass. Like what? And then you give me cancer. Like, of course the dumbassery is going to continue through it. And in a lot of ways, even though it was awful, cancer saved my life and it changed it in a good way. And that took a long time to kind of come to terms with. That wasn't like, oh my God, you're cancer free. And I'm like, oh, thank God that happened. I didn't want to talk about it for years. It just became like a thing I would drop into conversation in passing where they'd be like, oh, where were you for the last year? I'd be like, oh, I had cancer, moving on, and it just I didn't want it to become my personality. And as I've aged, I've kind of made a little mini career out of it and has become my personality. So
maybe you kind of knew it was coming, you know, like
I was probably fighting it, to be so honest with you.
Along with being an extrovert, which you're not, and like fighting that as well.
Right.
Oh,
Yeah.
man. I can't imagine how something that drastic couldn't change you. But I also think that the purpose that we have in our own lives was part of us being here and what we were brought into this planet with. But everything will shape us. The environment shapes us, technology shapes us, all this stuff. So, what a cool thing for you to tie film along with your journey. Like you and I connected because you're looking for people that can talk about their cancer story in basically a reel or a YouTube short clip that's going to be part of a documentary that will ultimately help people, even if they go, I'm going through this now and I don't know what to do. Here's some sort of, I'm not alone feeling from this. Like you unfortunately had to go through this shit to ultimately be able to do this and be able to help a lot of people. So talk to us a bit about getting up to the point of like, I want to create a documentary, I want to create a film festival, and then actually doing something with it.
Well, I'm always doing something. Friends and family know that I'm never sitting still. Grass can't grow on a rolling stone, or moss can't grow on a rolling stone, whatever that phraseology is. That's me. And it was right after I was told I was cancer free that I just, I think and I've learned this to be kind of the general consensus, that you think that you're just going to go back to the way that your life was before. And it's like, oh, great, this is done. Okay, we're finished here. Wrinkle in time. We're going to meet me. This me is going to meet me back here where I'm currently, and we'll just go from there. And that is effectively not what happens. I fought that for years, where I thought that I could just shove myself back into the life I had before, and it always felt off. And maybe to the outsider who is not me, it looked like I successfully did that. I was a working actor for a long time, and I was going through the motions of the life that I had before, but the entire time I felt so out of place and I felt off and I couldn't figure out why. And as I started to speak to other people who had been through the cancer experience and come out on the other side, every single one of their stories was the same. I can't stand the people I'm around. They're irritating me. I don't want to go to work. I mean, that's a normal feeling, but like in a different way, where it's like, what am I fucking doing? Like, I don't want to do this. And it shifts your relationships, not only with other people in your life, but with yourself. And there isn't a whole lot of conversation about it. There's not a whole lot of resources for it. And so what I wanted to do, the more and more I talk about this independently, whether it be on other podcasts or whether it be through something else I'm working on, it's why I wrote my first book, is that I want to have the conversation not only of like the hard parts of having cancer, because I think a lot of times people just look at you like a cancer patient and you're not really a person anymore. And so the conversations of relationships, dating, sex, really, and body image and everything else kind of go away because, oh, you're a sick person, you shouldn't be fussing about that. Okay, well, I was a 25-year-old guy, like, and I'm very vain. So like, of course I was going to be thinking about this. And so those conversations paired with the after cancer conversations and how your life just is a complete unrecognizable thing that like you're existing in. And it's like dreams, like when you have a dream and in the dream, you like understand that you're in your house, but it doesn't look like your house. That's what it's like. You come out and you're like, I recognize everything, but I feel so displaced and I don't recognize anything that's happening. And so you spend a lot of time, like I did, trying to grasp to get back at that desperately and in so many different ways to try and feel the way that you used to feel before you had cancer. And that's just not going to happen. And I think my impression that I would like to leave with people who are maybe newly cancer free or are presumably going to be soon is that like, just fucking kill off the person that you were before early. Because the sooner you let go of that person, the sooner you can create a new one that is going to be better and have better context and better understanding of your life and your wants. And it's very much a clean slate. And medically speaking, I had a stem cell transplant. That's not the case with everybody else. But medically speaking, like my immune system was a little baby. And so like in a very literal sense, like my body was infantile and like didn't look it, but you know what I mean? Like on the inside, the actual clock running on the immune system was a little baby. And so like I should have really treated myself the same in the sense that I have no history. From that point on, there's no history, there's no context, just start over. And I wish I would have done that sooner.
Well, it sounds like it's almost like shedding skin in a sense. Like,
oh yeah, 100%. And especially in almost in a literal sense too. Not that your skin is like falling off, or unless you've had radiation, in which case then yes, it is. But like you don't look the way that you did before cancer really ever again. You know, and like relatively speaking, I don't think I've ever looked the way that I did before cancer ever again. And maybe that partially had to do with my age and getting older and whatever, but you know, you go into it looking one way and then you get in there and you're completely wrecked and you look very different during, and then after it's like a rebuilding stage and you bounce back and think your hair comes back curly, or sometimes it comes back white, or sometimes it doesn't come back at all. And there's so many different versions of how you change through that whole process that like on the other side, it's just like, what skin am I wearing? Who is this?
It also changes you, you know, as the soul and the being inside. Well, what a cool thing to think about from the perspective of, well, if you're changing, you're changing. So go with it. But that's not a thing you could have really, I don't know. I've only known you for fucking a little bit, but like, I'm sure somebody at 25 would be like, you're going to love the person you're going to be. Probably would have started off with fuck you. Anything after that would have just been how you felt about yourself in that moment right then and there. As a 25-year-old kid too, you are still forming who you think you want to be. Even if you're a little further ahead in where you are, like you have this idea in your head of this is where I think I'm going. And then that all changes. So for you now to be able to look back and say like, all right, well, I could have flown or like enjoyed that a little bit more and gone with it. I think that's crucial for people, no matter what age. Like you also have different points. Like 30, you look a little different. 35, you feel a little different. 40, your
and
knees
you
just fucking
look
hurt.
A little different
yeah,
too.
exactly. And you're like, what happened? Like, why is my back hurting? I slept for 8 hours. That was the problem. But like,
oh man,
life just happens. And I think we have to look at ourselves in the mirror differently at different times anyway. But for those people that are, I don't know, about to go through something like that, not even just cancer, because I think this kind of ties across different major shifts and changes. What advice would you give to them to be able to say like, hey, keep on that track, but here's how I go about it?
I know several people who have written books that are like the blueprint to going through cancer. And I think that is helpful. And there's certainly a place for that. I think that there is no blueprint and no guidebook because everyone is different and every circumstance is different and every prognosis is different. And the treatment I get is not going to be the same treatment that someone else gets. And so it's very difficult to kind of articulate like, do this. And I mean, as unfun as the realities of cancer are, and the need to like basically force feed yourself so that you have strength enough to get through it and like all that crap, even though you don't want to. The during portion, like try to have fun, like really try to have fun. I would invite friends over to like my hospital room and we'd have like pizza parties with hospital food. Like it was fun. Like it was a shitty circumstance. It was fucking terrible, but like we made the best of it. And being surrounded by friends and family really helped that. And it's certainly a way to fight it. You know, like there's only so much fighting you can do in a hospital bed and like with doctors and nurses around you and this, that, and the other. But like, try to have fun, make the best of it. Like and I feel shitty saying that, you know, because like facing that, if you would have said, if you would have told newly diagnosed 25-year-old me to like have fun, I'd be like, fuck you, you dumb cunt. What are you talking about? I feel like that's a pretty hard pill to swallow. And I apologize if that comes off in the wrong way. Oh my God, you have cancer. Have fun.
Well, I mean, there are things like, I think you can go through shit where you can tell somebody like, man, this is going to be rough, but here's what I learned from it or whatever. I'm glad that you went to you don't have, I guess, the right or the authority or all the information even to be able to say, here's the exact blueprint, because that is never the thing. Like context and everybody's situation is always different, no matter what it is. But for you to be able to think back to yourself of like, hey, go have fun. Like, yeah, you probably would have told yourself to go fuck off. In all reality, like you're still right because you've been through all of that. And there's still stages, just like grief, just like anything else. You go through all those stages, but then with the clarity, here you are doing these things. So with the people that are on their path towards self-mastery, maybe have had cancer or they're in remission or they know of somebody that's had cancer, what sort of advice would you give to them as they're on their path towards self-mastery?
My first reaction is when you have cancer actively, there is no path to self-mastery because every single day is just a curveball. And I feel like that sounds a little womp womp, and I don't mean it to, but the last thing on my mind when I was in treatment was like, how can I self-master? Self-masturbate, maybe, but that's a different conversation. But I do think that there is room to like live in the active cancer space during treatment and like make sure that you take moments to appreciate the people around you and to recognize those who are helping you from a good place, because there are certainly people that are going to show up that are not there from a good place, and that's a much longer conversation. But I would say like find a way to be present and acknowledge the people around you and appreciate the fact that they're there.
That seems important, kind of no matter what's going on, but probably really critical for you to look at in such a heavy time of like, what the fuck? I could imagine most times you can go through cancer, you just don't want to even anything, let alone have fun. Like, have fun.
And listen, I'm not trying to paint this picture that like every day was rainbows and sparkles. Like it certainly was not. But like there were definitive points where I made a purposeful decision to have fun or do something that was like really out of the ordinary from my day to day. Maybe this is off topic, but one thing that I do want to add to the whole transitioning out of cancer thing is like, again, the misconception of what that looks like, right? You know, like you think you're cancer free, you're told that you're cancer free and everything is going to be amazing and that you get to go back to your life, right? But I think what people don't understand, and they couldn't understand because they haven't been in that situation perhaps, is that like when you're being treated, all of the nurses and all the doctors and all the social workers and all the people running, you know, medical studies and whatnot that you inevitably get shoved into, are like a very concrete support system. And when you're told that you're cancer free, all of that goes away essentially overnight. And so that's like, it's another contributing factor to looking around at your life and being like, I don't know what to do, because you're also free falling. You're free falling from like this network of people that have been holding you up for however long and telling you where to go and what appointments to go to and what to eat and what not to eat and how to take your medication and when to take it. And like every single moment of your life is dictated. And then all of a sudden it's not. And that's like, again, like a bomb going off. Like, where am I? What do I do? How do I get up in the morning? What do you mean I don't have any appointments? And then in like a really kind of sick, twisted, fucked up way, you're like wishing something would go wrong so you could go back to the hospital to see your doctor and be like, and feel normal, because that has become normal. And they're just, like, it's a minefield. At my 5-year cancer-free appointment, my oncologist, and I didn't know this, told me that because I hit 5 years, I no longer need to see her. And like, you'd think like, oh my God, I hit 5 years. That's great. I cried because I was going to miss her. And like, she was great. I loved her. But like, talk about like an unexpected reaction of like, what do you mean I'm not going to see you anymore? It like very much was like a weird, fucked up breakup.
A very heavy time of your life. Like these relationships,
yeah.
People that don't have situations like that don't think about it that way. I mean, it can almost be like some jobs that you're in, you can be familial, and there's some that like push too much of that. But like you work a lot with people or groups or whatever, and then somebody's just gone or the whole group ended or whatever. Like we all have those little situations at times, but the longer that stuff goes and the heavier it is, I feel like that just makes a ton of sense, where it's like all of that just compounds and like this piece of concrete of this is a giant chunk of your life. And these all mean a lot to you specifically now, but God, going forward, you'll have memories for the rest of your life because of all that stuff.
For better or worse.
Yeah, man. I'm glad that you bring that up. So thank you for that.
Sorry, I do want to comment to the self-mastery thing. One thing I do remember doing, And I still do it now. And I actually end up yelling at people about this too. Whenever you kind of like hit a place where you don't know what to do, you know, you hit a fork in the road or some major thing changes in your life. And this was kind of a later on during that period of time thing, but I've carried it over to now. And it's like kind of the default thing that I do is I ask myself what I want. And it has to be a rapid fire response. It cannot be like this existential, like I sat down and journaled about this for 5 hours. Like it has to be like look at yourself in the mirror and be like, what do you want? Or just like write it down. I want blah, and the first thing that comes to your mind. And I used to journal a lot more than I do now, but I have pages and pages and pages of like, what do you want? I want. And I would just make lists, and it'd be stupid shit like, I want a coffee. I want a car. I want money. I want better hair. Just write it down. And that's like the very general version of that. But I think the more specific version of that is like, if you've hit a crossroad, you have to ask yourself, what do you want? Because so many of us end up acting in the shadow of what other people want or what other people expect of us. And that just takes us farther and farther and farther away from who we actually are. This is something I can speak to specifically from cancer, but it's something I can also specifically speak to because of being in the entertainment industry, where you are expected to be something you're not necessarily, or you get shoved into a box that like you have to exist in or you don't work. And I wish I would have had this practice a lot earlier to just be like, what do you want? I want this. What do you want? I want this. Like if getting a job offer, okay, look at it. What do I want out of this? What is this going to do to serve me? And I think the what do I want situation has really shaped the last couple of years of my life. My life now looks exponentially different than it did 3 years ago. And it's because I just really sat down with myself and just kept asking me what I wanted.
That's a good point. I think for anybody who trusts their intuition or the people that are real heady and think about things a lot. I mean, there are certain people that they have to go off their gut instincts. Like I'm a sacral-led person, so I even do it with dinners. Like, what are we having for dinner tonight? Sushi, nah. Thai, nah. Burgers, yeah, or whatever it is. It's like to have that. But I think even if people can just sit down and you have to think through things all the times, or you have to feel through all of it, just asking yourself that of like, what do I want? There's something that's going to come up always. Like, I'm glad you pointed out like the normal human shit of like, I want a coffee. Yeah, well, that makes sense. Because like, that's what you fucking wanted right then. Like,
right. And I think a lot of us, especially people who are overthinkers, I'm related to some of them, there just is so much hesitation, and that takes up so much time when you think too hard about what the answer is. And I think that comes from being a people pleaser and wanting to come up with the right answer that everyone else will also be happy with. And like, again, I don't know if it's age, I don't know if it's cancer, it's probably a combination of both, but I don't give a fuck what other people want. I don't. This is the path that I'm going on, that I've decided that is right for me. And I don't give a flying fuck who has to say what about it. Like, you want to pay my rent? Great. Then you get to decide what choices I make.
Man, I guess even on that note, the people that are kind of in a spot where they're like, well, I work for somebody and I have to do what they want me to do because I also need to take a paycheck from them to pay for my mortgage and whatever else. I think we can still do that in a balancing way, but we have to ask ourselves 100%. The basics. Like, what do I want right now? I don't want to be at this job anymore. So start with that. Or I want to do something different or whatever.
Then do something else. Complaining will only get you so far until you actually have to like do something about it.
Or it'll get you to Thursdays and happy hour, and then you complain with the group.
Right. Well, and that actually ties into like I don't remember what the prompt was before when we were talking offline, but like I literally have a Post-it note on my desk that says, stop listening to other people telling you what you can and can't do, what you should or should not be doing, what you are and are not capable of. They do not know you. Stop waiting. Start doing. Fuck them.
Period.
That is literally on my
Nice.
desk.
Nice. Oh, I love how we all figure out the little things that work for us. Like, yeah, I'm going to have this note
Yeah.
right here. And yeah, and like you get power from it.
Oh yeah. I posted notes all over my apartment.
Man, it's been awesome having you on. I appreciate you being here. I appreciate you going through the stuff you've gone through and setting up the festival and all that stuff. That's important work you're doing, man. So before I let you go, where can people find you and where can they connect with you?
You can find me on Instagram or TikTok at Edward Miskie. Also, the film festival is called the Remission Film Festival. It is the only festival of its kind that is operating now that is specific to cancer survivors and those impacted by cancer. Everyone who submits to it has a story that they have told through film. And you can find that at Remission Film Fest on Instagram and the website as well, which is just a .com. Oh, and we talked about my book for a hot second. That's Cancer, Musical Theater, and Other Chronic Illnesses. And the other book will be coming out later, but we're not going to talk about that just yet.
Awesome, man. Well, again, it's been a pleasure having you on. I appreciate your time today.
Thanks. Anytime.